Theory, do you think Ahsoka is more Dave's or Kathleen's?
The show or
the show, yeah. The show.
Gosh, yeah, that's a good one.
Tough one.
He's in the corner now.
Yeah, I am. I would say that's probably more. You stumped me.
G'day guys and welcome to Raging Rhino. About 3 months ago, I did a video reacting to a small segment of one of the Stargriff streams over on Star Wars Theory's channel when he was doing those streams with Mauler and Ryan Kennel. And the funny thing is in those streams, both Ryan and Mauler made Theory look like an absolute moron when it comes to Disney Star Wars, and especially when it comes to Dave Filoni. It's been well documented, I think, by now that Star Wars Theory has a massive Filoni boner, and he thinks that Dave Filoni is doing the right things and making good Star Wars. And it really doesn't make any sense, though, because, of course, when you ask him about his thoughts on Ahsoka or something like that, it's like, oh, it wasn't as good as it maybe could have been. Or, you know, he really beats around the bush, and he really does ride that fence when it comes to anything that Dave Filoni has done. Of course, there were multiple different things that he talked about in regards to his rating system and how he rates his all the Star Wars stuff against only other Star Wars stuff, not like top quality entertainment and storytelling, which, like, again, the Stargriff streams, it's probably a good thing that he doesn't do them anymore, because those two guys, Mauler and Ryan, made him look moronic, like stupid, just stupid. But we've got a new clip that we're going to actually react to. Now, this was over on the Critical Drinkers channel. And of course, this is his open bar, and we had the Acolyte drop. And of course, they get Star Wars Theory on. They also had Robot Head on. Shout out to Robot Head. They had Echo on down the bottom there, and you've got Mauler and, of course, the Critical Drinker. Now, I'm not going to set too much up here. Obviously, earlier on in the stream, they were talking about the Acolyte. They're now going into, like, the mistakes and things that Lucasfilm have done that are really massive issues within the Star Wars fandom, within the entertainment that they're making, and all of that sort of thing. So look, I'm not going to ramble on anymore. We are going to react, and I'll give you my thoughts as we go through this. But this was just a small section. It's about 15 minutes of Theory simping for Dave Filoni. And once again, Mauler, in his divine wisdom, makes Theory look like an absolute moron. Let's take a look.
I think if Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau got together and they had nobody else whispering in their ear, I think they do a fantastic job.
Now, before we go any further, I know we've only just played a little bit there, but he's talking about Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau getting together and nobody whispering in their ear. I thought that's what that chief creative officer position was supposed to be, because he's now being inserted in all the projects at a very, very early stage. And of course, when you look at the stuff that Dave Filoni's done, especially under the umbrella of Disney, there's not a lot there. There's actually a lot more there that I think even Star Wars Theory doesn't like than what he does like. But yet he's got this, I don't know, it's so narrow-minded in regards to Dave Filoni and the apprentice of George Lucas. And I think earlier in the stream, not long before this, he mentions how George Lucas and Dave Filoni are constantly in contact and on the phone, and George is constantly giving Dave ideas. Like, I don't know where this comes from. George Lucas, in interviews very recently, has talked about how there is this separation, and they are not making George Lucas Star Wars, including Dave Filoni. There was also another clip recently that came out, or another quote from an interview, where George talks about how nobody at Lucasfilm actually understands the Force. Nobody. That includes Dave Filoni, being that he is at Lucasfilm. And based on what we've been getting from Dave, from Leslie Headland with the Acolyte, from Deborah Chow, like all of them, Jon Favreau, all of them over there, there is nothing that we've seen so far that is actually anything to do with George Lucas's Star Wars. So anyway, let's continue.
I don't think Dave is the problem. I don't think John is the problem. I think Kathleen is the problem. I think Kathleen and the people around that are constantly controlling them are the problem.
Oh man, again, the defense for John and Dave is unbelievable. This is almost going into Civil War territory. You know, Doomtards. And there's Civil War that John and Dave won, but then we get something like the Acolyte. You know what I mean? It's ridiculous.
At the end of the day, nobody knows Star Wars better than George Lucas,
Correct.
and the next person in line, I think, is Dave Filoni, who respects him.
Do you think?
Well, who respects him? No, Dave does not respect George Lucas at all. Because later on in this clip, they do talk about how Kathleen Kennedy's controlling everything over there, and Dave doesn't really have the control that he really wants to have to be able to create good Star Wars. No, that's not how I see it at all. Dave Filoni is well and truly on board with this woke garbage bullshit Star Wars that we're getting that is not loyal to George Lucas and has no connection to George Lucas's Star Wars.
And then next to him is Jon Favreau.
I think if I choose someone to entrust with Star Wars, it would probably be John rather than Dave.
I think I'd choose John over Dave. Yeah,
I think I'd choose John over Dave as well. Yeah.
It's funny that he says he reckons he'd choose John over Dave, where we have heard him on his own streams talk about how Dave Filoni would be the best person to take over Lucasfilm.
Do you think?
And knowing about something doesn't make you creative. Like I don't think
Robot Head.
I don't think Dave Filoni's a creative person. I think he just
I think
knows the law.
He then says he thinks he knows the law, and of course you saw Theory there sort of get his back up and wanted to say, I think he's creative. Robot Head, he probably did know the law, and he probably does know the law. The problem is that the people that they've culminated over there at Lucasfilm are so on board with this Force is female and woke bullshit Star Wars and destroying the law, destroying the canon, destroying the continuity, and destroying the original legacy characters. And I, again, don't think he's being loyal to Star Wars. He's not being loyal to Star Wars fans, and he's certainly not being loyal to George Lucas at all. He may have known the law once in the past, but what's happened to him over at Lucasfilm or Disney Lucasfilm has changed him, if that is the case.
Well,
This is the question. This is the moment. This is the exact moment where Mauler makes Theory look like an absolute moron.
Theory, do you think Ahsoka is more Dave's or Kathleen's?
The show or the
show,
character?
yeah. The show.
Gosh, yeah, that's a good one.
Tough one.
He's in a corner now.
Yeah, I am.
This is the thing. He knows the answer. The reason why he hasn't answered it and he's pondering on this question is because he knows the answer, and he knows that if he says Dave, his house of cards, his glass ceiling comes crashing down on top of him. But listen to his answer.
I would say that's probably more. You stumped me. I would say
No shit, because it's Dave Filoni and it's crap. And you're sitting here defending him in front of all of these people that see that Dave Filoni is probably one of the worst people to be over there at Lucasfilm, to be making Star Wars. Because he is considered over there to be this quote-unquote apprentice to George Lucas.
say that the character of Ahsoka is Dave's, but where the story goes and the constant chipping away at the corners is Kathleen. You know, should we go in
You see Echo frown there. That's so funny.
this
I think
direction?
that's fair.
No.
I think
And critical, I hate how you jump in there and go, I think that's fair, because no, that's not fair at all. Dave Filoni is the chief creative officer, promoted so that he oversees everything that's going on from a quote unquote law aspect. And yet the law that we continue to get throughout Disney Star Wars continues to be destroyed. So what Theory's about to say is that Dave Filoni comes up with an idea and then it gets handed around the room. But isn't that chief creative officer position supposed to give him ultimate say over the lore canon and continuity of the show that they're working on, the project that they're working on?
Take it here.
I think if she had that much control over story, there'd be more consistency. But we've seen it. She just hands the reins over to Ryan Johnson.
This is
and
how
she
I-
hands
this
it
is-
over.
I can
This
imagine.
is how I look at Star Wars. This is how I look at when Dave Filoni's in control. So you have, let's say, and this is going to be super weird, and people are going to, what the fuck's he talking about? You have a path made of wood, right? Like when they pour the, whatchamacallit, like the goo, you know those videos, those reels, where they pour the epoxy. They pour the epoxy in those on those tables, and they light it up underneath, and it looks really good. So
Yeah.
the epoxy is Ahsoka. That's the character that Dave created, and George.
It's a
That's
stupid
always going
analogy.
to be Ahsoka. But the path it takes, I think, is created by Kathleen Kennedy.
Bullshit, 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 bullshit. You know why I know it's bullshit? Because Mando seasons 1, 2, and 3 were show-runned and written and directed and, well, not so much directed, but definitely executive produced by John and Dave. Ahsoka was 100% Dave Filoni. The Bad Batch, Dave Filoni. And we get to a point later on where he talks about how he's been pushed by Kathleen Kennedy to make it all connect to the sequels so that they can try and make the sequels make sense. Now, okay, I don't have any evidence to say that Kathleen Kennedy's not pushing for that. But if Dave Filoni is so-called this chief creative officer and being loyal to George Lucas, then he should be sitting there going, no, we're not going to do that. But I don't believe that's even where we're going with it. The Bad Batch connects to the sequel trilogy. The Mandalorian connects to the sequel trilogy. It wouldn't surprise me if in some way, shape, or form, the Acolyte, which is ridiculous based on where they take place in the eras and the timelines, probably would connect to the sequel trilogy just to try and help it make sense. And we're supposed to believe that Dave Filoni is being manipulated basically by the execs over there at Disney Lucasfilm. Bullshit. I don't believe it.
Do you think she's just on the lookout for any like interesting female character that becomes the lead that she could then exploit? So like I think that makes a lot of sense with what you're describing there, where it's like David and John might have come up with characters like Ahsoka to have a limited use within a larger framework of a story, and Kathleen decides like, no, this has got to be the focal point of our narrative going forward.
Again, sorry, drinker, but I call bullshit. We had Dave Filoni get up in front of that women's conference and talk about how the fans were all pissed off about another female lead. How unfair. Like, I don't buy it. I don't believe it. Critical drinker, don't get sucked in by Star Wars Theory's Filoni boner. Don't get sucked in by it. Dave Filoni is the one responsible. I don't know how much he had to do with the Acolyte. Now, obviously, they changed the Chief Creative Officer title on the website well and truly after he already had that title. So I don't know how much involvement he's actually had with the Acolyte. But based on the fact that that's his position, he would have overseen it, right? And then you get those interviews with Leslie Headland and Dave Filoni where they're talking about Star Wars and their favorite parts of Star Wars and all of this kind of thing. And some of the things that Leslie Headland says, and then Dave Filoni's sitting there nodding. Yep, no, I agree. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Because that's what he fucking sounds like. Absolute idiot.
Forward. And so they have to then come up with a way to work her into like a main role story.
I think that gives Kathleen way too much credit.
I'm with Robot Head.
Like we're watching a show now that's all about it's Leslie Headland's life we're watching now. It's not Kathleen Kennedy's story. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I actually agree.
I
get the sense this is Leslie Headland like 98% or something ridiculous.
God,
but similarly, I get a sense that Filoni had near full control of Ahsoka's story.
100%. I'm with Mauler and I'm with Robot Head on this. So what, Leslie Headland just gets free reign, but Dave Filoni, the apprentice to George Lucas, doesn't get that same free reign? I don't buy it.
I don't get the sense that Kathleen was the one that was like pushing it into. And to be fair, I don't believe there are parts of Ahsoka that aren't working for its pathway. I actually feel like, because when you said where you look at this, where the story goes, like, or rather where the story doesn't go, most of that show is padding. It's
Yeah, but look, let's say you have like a wide scope, and Dave wants to do this, and Kathleen steps in. She says, "No, it has to tie into the sequels somehow. So how are we going to do this?"
This is his justification and his defense, so that he can keep simping for Dave Filoni, so he can have this hard on for Dave Filoni. It's his justification, because he knows that the stuff that he is watching right now is absolute garbage. He knows it. Whether it be the Acolyte or whether it be Ahsoka. He knows that the Star Wars that we're getting right now is absolute garbage. And he doesn't want Dave Filoni to get this bad name, despite his involvement in the majority of Disney Star Wars. He's got the majority of Disney Star Wars credits across the board. And he wants to white knight for Dave Filoni. It's absolutely, and again, it was more so the question that Mauler asked in regards to, do you think Ahsoka is more Dave or Kathleen Kennedy? And he sits there for, 3 minutes contemplating his answer before he comes up with some bullshit thing about how Dave comes up with his idea and it's great, and then Kathleen Kennedy gets her hands on it and it goes shit. That's what he's saying. Man, Theory, if you want to keep riding the fence and you want to keep the shilly audience that you've got, and you can't sit there and just say, no, it is bad, and actually look at the lore and stuff that you know and the contradictions in Disney Star Wars, then you should not be coming on shows like this. I mean, do what you want. And if these guys want to have him on, I mean, it makes for good entertainment. You've got basically 4 dudes on there that are saying, no, well, again, Drinker sort of half agrees with him, but it's certainly Mauler and Robot Head don't, and I don't. And again, the way Echo was sort of frowning at the way that Theory was describing it was a bit like, whoa, okay, this is a bit out of left field.
And Dave's like, well, I guess.
But
and so,
I guess.
I imagine, like, if you're a creative,
I think the opposite too.
When you say, like, well, I want to have this story that I've conceived with a strong white heterosexual male character who does like a bunch of heroic stuff and has to overcome the odds to triumph against the Sith or whatever, and he's very much the center of the story. I think that would get shit canned immediately because it doesn't fit within the values of what Lucasfilm wants now.
I think Dave pitches stories like that, and what happens is it gets passed around the whole. This is my theory. Passed around the whole whatever group at Disney. And they're like, well, why don't we make it a person of minority? Why don't we make it a female? Why don't we change this, and that, and the other? And then it just gets completely changed into something else. And it's like, it's more so about what the person looks like versus the story. And it's like,
yeah, okay. So let's say that is the case. So that original story that Dave Filoni pitched, and you're just flipping the genders, and you're flipping the colors of the skins, right? So that it's more diverse and DEI and all of that crap. So, and what does that automatically change the story that he pitched? Does it? No, I don't think that that's how that works. It is shit writing from Dave Filoni. It's shit pitches. And the only thing that I believe that Dave Filoni is trying to pitch right now is to try and pitch something to make the sequels make sense, which they'll fail miserably at. And from what we've seen, they're already failing miserably at it. The people that dislike the sequel trilogy are never going to like it, no matter what kind of explanation we get. But yet Dave Filoni's out there pitching stories, and then they completely change the story because they change the color and the sex of the character. Okay. You keep white knighting for Dave Filoni. Open your mouth, let him stick it in there, because that's what you're doing right now. You absolute simp. You seal clapping, Dave Filoni loving weirdo. I don't know how somebody that I think knows the lore, like Star Wars Theory, at least he's got a very, very good understanding of the lore and everything, can't see that Dave Filoni is an absolute abomination for the lore, canon, and continuity of actual Star Wars. It blows my mind.
Well, now we just have something that's just identity politics versus an actual good character or good storytelling, which is what probably intended to be in the first place.
Yeah, no, I can see that for sure.
And it's worth remembering, there are several forms of writing things shittily, and like, didn't he come up with a will between worlds? That I argue would be one of the most catastrophic things to put into Star Wars.
I agree.
And Rebels was garbage, and that was early days of Disney Star Wars. Rebels, there's some redeeming moments in it. There's some decent parts of it, but if you look at it as a whole, it's probably maybe 10% good to 90% bad. Creating the world between worlds and then inserting that into his Ahsoka live action show, weirdly.
And if you watch that behind the scenes of The Last Jedi, I'm amazed what a backseat Kathleen Kennedy takes. Like, she was like a fangirl on set, following Rian Johnson around. So I think
apparently the production for Last Jedi was pretty smooth.
Now, I'm just going to say this. They talk about Kathleen Kennedy for a couple of minutes here, but then they do go back to the Dave Filoni thing. So we're just going to play through this really quickly. I don't want to cut it because I want you to get the full context of this part of the conversation. So let's just continue and we'll get through this. I'll speed it up a little bit.
I want to say about the actual finished product, like the production cycle was relatively easy and everything went well, which is probably quite a rare thing within Star Wars at that point.
But surely this is like a kind of tipping point. Like, they can't keep going on like this. They can't keep being identitarian and foregrounding and showcasing diversity and strong female characters. They can't have a third one like that on the bounce. Like, there has to be some kind of coming back towards the center. They couldn't do another show like this. It'd be too long.
Oh, you think?
I used to do a show with my buddy Mark Fernandez, who used to own Collider, and he interviewed Rian Johnson for 2 hours, and he said, he's a nice guy and all that, but and he found out the way Rian got the role of The Last Jedi was not because he pitched The Last Jedi. He's not like, hey, I want to do episode 8. He came in wanting to do his own trilogy, which is the whole like Rian Johnson's trilogy thing. That was the original pitch. And Kathleen said, oh, you know what? Why don't you just do 8 and we'll give you full control. This is from the words of Rian Johnson to Mark. So I'm paraphrasing, but he didn't even want to do 8. They just literally gave him the keys, like just like that, because he pitched a trilogy of his own. And he's like, all right, sure, I'll do 8. And then all of a sudden, he's now done 8, and then he's waiting to do his actual trilogy, which is what he wanted to do in the first place, which I guess is shelved now. So,
well, as soon as he signed for his Knives Out trilogy, I didn't buy that he was going to do any Star Wars for many years. Yeah, it just didn't make sense to me. Like, the idea that you'd run a trilogy at the same time as doing a Knives Out trilogy doesn't seem right at all.
No, especially when he signed $200 million to himself or something like that. That's great. He's not going to.
Star Wars. Well, I think from an optics point of view, like if you were to go to the fan base and say, "Hey, we've got our new Rian Johnson trilogy of Star Wars movies coming out," like, how many Star Wars fans are going to get excited about that?
None.
A lot of YouTubers would.
Well,
yeah. Yeah.
Still going to make them money.
I love you, Robot Head.
Well,
he lives in the same city as me. Go the Aussies.
I'm at the point now where I don't feel emotion or frustration or exasperation about it anymore, because we went to the point where we were still in some kind of half conscious or latent level feeling a connection to Star Wars, that it could be corrected, that it could still be tied back to the original somehow, that we talked about it being co-opted and stripped mined and then picking dead the corpse. And so for me, it's now so disassociated from what I think of as Star Wars, that even though it looks like Star Wars, I don't think of it as Star Wars anymore. So I've lost any of that emotional frustration anymore.
Absolutely echo. Disney Star Wars is not Star Wars. Never has been, never will be.
Content that I can comment on.
Ahsoka did that for me. I didn't realize it was an awakening, that I actually was still trying to hang on to something the whole time. Through all the other shows. And then Ahsoka was just like, I have no connection to this whatsoever. I don't care. It's like, it's not even making me angry. It's like funny to watch.
Notice that Theory's nodding his head here to what Robot Head's saying. But see, Theory thinks that it wasn't the bad parts of Ahsoka wasn't Dave. He truly believes that.
Watch, and just something had clicked and it's just not there anymore for me.
Star Wars is the way back to my core being. Like, that fucking the 5th episode of Ahsoka really set me off because of that felt like the future for Star Wars. That was the best we're ever gonna get. The
Robot Head, did you not like the Baylan Skoll and Shin Hati?
Oh, there's Baylan and Shin. Here we go.
In Ahsoka,
yeah,
I think they were wasted. Like, I think they I don't think they even really got an arc. Like, I think they were
they don't have an arc.
I think what you had there was 2 really good actors playing pretty weak characters, but like,
tickling the balls of the fans by being like, I have an opinion that's slightly different than most people you may have heard of. Something you may think would be pretty cool. Anyway,
Yeah,
so I think
it's funny that Star Wars Theory laughed because those two characters tickled your balls, didn't they? Even though they are hollow, nothing burger characters created and written and produced and directed by Dave Filoni.
With things like Bale and Scott and stuff, like they lucked into really good actors playing pretty like weak characters, but like investing them with way more gravitas and meaning than probably the script actually.
I just want to explain something really quickly. We will come back to this. The reason why I get so it grinds my gears so much, especially with Star Wars Theory when it comes to Dave Filoni, is because people are starting to see that Dave Filoni is not the right person. Why can't Star Wars Theory see this? Why can't Star Wars Theory actually admit to himself that no, Disney Star Wars isn't Star Wars. Disney Star Wars is in a really, really bad place. And Dave Filoni isn't helping the situation. I mean, I think it was on one of the Stargriff streams where both Ryan and Mauler said we need to clean house. It might have even been in my video. But then Theory arcs up and goes, oh, even Dave? And they're like, yeah, both. If anything, he's the first one to go. And he's like, oh, no, I don't think so. I think he's better than that. Like, that's, and he's got no argument other than the fact that he was Dave Filoni's, he was George Lucas's apprentice. And apparently he knows the lore and he knows the canon and he knows the continuity. And that means he should be doing a way better job than what he's doing. And I don't buy into the whole Kathleen Kennedy meddling with it or anything like that. So it just grinds my gears that this dude is the only one that can't actually see that Dave Filoni is an absolute hack and an abomination for Star Wars. Let's continue.
Deserved.
Dude, if you watch the EFAB TV episodes, we are like listening intently to every line from them in the scenes, and then when they like stop talking, we're like, no, don't go to another scene, don't go back to Ahsoka. No,
yeah.
Like it's just like her just sitting on a ship with the 10-second pauses between each line. It's like, no.
It felt like he was always going to say something interesting in a second.
Yes,
and then, like,
Theory.
when they went away, he was still talking.
Dave made that.
And like, I know he's saying something interesting back there.
Yeah, I know. Fuck. God,
it's quite interesting robot head. Like,
why? You know, fuck. But yet, this is what annoys me about it. It's almost hypocritical in the way he's explaining his love for Dave and how Dave is the ultimate and all of this kind of thing. But then these guys are shitting on Dave Filoni projects and you're sitting there agreeing and going, yeah, well, man, that was shit. Yeah, I know. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me. I just don't get that. I don't get it.
Can you actually, how close can you pinpoint the moment where you reached like heat death of the universe for you as Star Wars? For me, it might be Reva, actually, when it turns out like, what is her motivation? Why is she good or bad? And what's going on? That might have been it, but that was the last solid tethering me to any kind of
Reva is the most confusing. But the writing of Reva is the most confusing character I've ever. I cannot understand how anyone understands that character and what her motivation is.
Me
and what
too.
her backstory is. It just makes completely no sense. But I think there was something in me that thought, I don't know, maybe the next show will be better. But yes.
The Kenobi show was by far the worst writing and directing I've ever seen in any Star Wars project ever.
I'd say I think Acolyte is about to trump that, and that's saying something because Theory there isn't wrong. It is the worst. The funny thing is I'd actually like to go back and see what he rated each episode of the Obi-Wan Kenobi show, because even though I've seen on streams after his watch parties and stuff, even after he says something like this, he'll still give it like a 7 or even an 8 out of 10, you know? So I'd actually like to see what his ratings were for the Obi-Wan Kenobi show after hearing him say that.
I think that his reputation is sank, even because the sequel trilogy is his competition. But as Siri just said, like I feel like directing is definitely worse than Kenobi. Yeah.
No, I think Kenobi is worse than the sequel.
Book of Boba Fett's pretty fucking bad.
Book of Boba Fett's horrible.
Bad, but you know what? It ain't Kenobi bad.
Oh, it's pretty bad.
It's honestly so difficult to pick amongst them because it's like, how many more of these like classic characters that we appreciated have you destroyed? Like we've run out at this point. But you know, like for me, the breaking point was like Last Jedi was okay. Like this is exposed all of the problems within your sequel trilogy, and oh my god, you're going to have to do something incredible to pull this back. Then we got Rise of Skywalker, and that's when I thought, yeah, you guys got no plan. you've got no idea where to go with this. You don't know what you're doing. You've just inherited an IP, and you're just trying to strip mine it for whatever dollar value you can get out of it. And at that point, the TV shows were just a kind of
see again. He's sitting there nodding in agreement with him, but he's forgetting. It's like he's choosing to ignore the fact that Dave Filoni has a lot to do with what Drink is talking about right now. And he's sitting there nodding in agreement with it. Again, it just blows my mind and how much this doesn't make any sense.
Academic exercise. You know, we saw The Mandalorian season 1, and I thought, it's fine. You know, it's pretty simplistic.
It's actually shit
stuff. It's not going to change much, but you know, it's not terrible. Then it just
it's pretty bad
farce, and then we got all the other TV shows that followed it, and it's like, again, destroyed that too.
The Obi-Wan show, right? When you have the nature of the OT being the part of the thing in our heads, I would argue is the Vader Obi-Wan fight from A New Hope is like a foundational battle of character ideology, and then representative Sith, Jedi, and all of it fuels like into Luke for all the character stuff. And then the prequels come in, and I was gonna say it's like that meme with the two. I think it's like two cartoon guys like shaking hands in terms of like the, you know, for what anyone may say about the prequels, the battle that Obi-Wan and Anakin have is enormous, is fast, it's so stylized, loads of long shots of amazing choreography, that sort of thing. And then there's the goofy guy who's like, here's my contribution. Vader and Obi-Wan in a really horribly shot, like really quarry in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
It was just like, what the fuck is this?
With shaky cam.
Was this, did you just do this on the weekend with some friends and like a fucking phone?
Yeah.
What is this?
I've literally seen fan films that look better than that.
It's so sad.
I got
and
so now I'm going to
fan films are better than majority of stuff that Dave Filoni does.
Oh, yeah.
I've never seen something that got so much like a fan film. That running around the quarry and Obi-Wan just constantly looking scared and then running off.
Oh.
The last time they met, he cut him up to pieces. Like, and
I did love the whole like Reva faces off against him, like ignites. Vader faces off against him, ignites his lightsaber, and then Obi-Wan just
runs away.
And goes, nah, fuck it, I'm out. He just
runs away. Oh, it's so awkward, man.
even the timing of it's just
you know, Vader was like, hey.
Oh, we're supposed to have a fight here, you pussy.
Yeah, like a construction zone. Something
sad. Like I said, it's absolutely sad.
A crane in the background.
It is sad, Mauler. Anyway, that's pretty much it. I just wanted to show you guys, like, I don't know why Theory does insist, well, not insist necessarily, but, you know, if he gets an invite to these streams, or even to have Ryan and Mauler, or even Robot Head, or whoever he would get on his channel that it doesn't see eye to eye with him, with Filoni, when that comes to the Filoni topic and that part of the conversation, these dudes make Theory look stupid. Like like I said, he is choosing to ignore how much bad Dave Filoni has done because why? I don't know. That's why I say he's got a Filoni boner, because I can't answer the question. It doesn't make sense to me. But the biggest thing with this was when Mauler asked him, you know, do you think that it was Dave's project, or do you think that it was Kathleen Kennedy's project?
I don't think you could keep anyone. And like Mauler was saying, like everything has to go. Everyone that's been connected with it.
Oh, see, I'm glad I went back. I was going to show you that clip again, but this is why the whole Dave Filoni thing comes up, because every time Theory's on a stream with somebody and they say that we need to clean house at Lucasfilm, not just in regards to decanonizing everything that they've done, but also cleaning house with all the employees. The first question that Theory asks is, oh, what about Dave? What about my poor little Dave?
I don't think you could keep anyone. And like Mauler was saying, like everything has to go. Everyone that's been connected with it, because it's just so layered of shit. And no one in there is apparently pointing out any of the shit.
Yeah.
That I just need,
including Dave.
Anyone.
I don't even know if I'd want to bring back George Lucas because he's so old and tired now. I would just think
we've gone back earlier in the stream here.
I don't know.
I wouldn't give him control. I would say, like, you could be an advisor. Like, give us some ideas.
And that's only if he's on board. I imagine he'd be like, I'm good at this point.
He's very vocal.
He's basically like Gene Roddenberry.
He's very vocal. Like who? Dave is very vocal, Theory? Or George is very vocal. George is very vocal at the fact that this isn't his Star Wars, and that everybody over there at Lucasfilm actually has no idea what Star Wars is.
And like has a token sentimental value, but his ideas are rubbish. So he's basically kind of on that role now.
No, he's very vocal about it. I mean, I speak with lucky enough the friends that I have now that know him, and what he says is it's just he's very active in the sense of what he thinks of everything.
Yeah,
but he's
George
definitely removed from it, and I'm sure he would love to be brought back into some major consulting, or just be like, hey, like, what should we do? And that's
why.
That's
what you think he wants to come back from major consulting, and what can we do?
Him and Dave Filoni do, right?
This is what him and Dave Filoni do.
They do a lot of that.
Yeah, I mean, hypothetical. If you said to George, like, hey, I'm going to give you 100% control over Star Wars again, no fee, nothing, like, it's just yours.
Yep.
Would you take it? If we said, like, hey, give us some ideas for like a new trilogy, do you think he would do that?
He would do it if his name wasn't on it.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't get that, but okay.
Because he doesn't want to be known anymore as like doing any sort of projects, but he still wants to be creative on it.
You reckon?
That's the vibe I get.
In the Disney canon,
hear him out for sure.
Of course.
We want to. Gosh, the amount of work to be done to build this back up.
I think there's nothing that we couldn't achieve in one weekend with a bucket of cocaine. Absolutely fix Star Wars.
Fix everything. Fix everything.
Bring it back.
That's a cool idea. Yeah, I think if Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau got together and they had nobody else
is the moment
in their ear, I think they do a fantastic job. I don't think Dave is the problem. I
think he is. I think he's a very big problem.
The people around that are constantly controlling them are the problem. Because at the end of the day, nobody knows Star Wars better than George Lucas, and the next person in line, I think, is Dave Filoni, who respects him.
Do you think?
And then next to him is Jon Favreau.
I think if I had to choose someone to entrust with Star Wars, it would probably be John rather than Dave.
So this is what we listened to earlier. I just want to get to the bit again
as well. Yeah.
Do you think?
And knowing about something doesn't make you creative. Like I don't think he's.
Watch theory.
Dave Filoni's a creative person. I think he just.
I think
knows the law.
I think he is. I think he is.
Theory. Do you think Ahsoka is more Dave's or Kathleen's?
The show or
the show? Yeah, the show.
It's Dave's. It's Dave's. It's Dave's. Every day of the week, it's Dave's. And the reason why you're
gosh, yeah, that's a good one.
The reason why you're contemplating your answer is because you already know the answer and you don't want to say it because it makes your narrative of Dave Filoni being the almighty master, the messiah for Star Wars, look like shit. Anyway, that's my thoughts on this. I had to do a video because, like I said, Theory just seems to go on these streams with these people and makes himself look stupid, makes himself look dumb as hell when Dave Filoni is a major problem. If we're going to give some responsibility to Kathleen Kennedy, I'm going to go 50% Kathleen Kennedy, 50% Dave Filoni, because Dave Filoni is hovering over all of these projects, making them, allowing them to be made without sitting there going, no, we can't do this, or we should do it this way, or whatever the case may be. Whatever you want to do in regards to the characters, flipping the colors and flipping the genders and all of that sort of thing, I don't give a fuck about that. It really comes down to the story and the Star Wars storytelling that we're getting, the lore, the canon, the continuity. None of that's there, even when it comes to Dave Filoni's projects. And no amount of meddling from Kathleen Kennedy is going to change Dave Filoni's, let's say, integrity, if he had any, to change what he knows when it comes to Star Wars. So anyway, that's my thoughts on it. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. Later, guys.